Hello, everyone. My name is Lindsay Williams, and I teach English language arts, specifically English 3 and creative writing at Troy Buchanan High School. I am so sorry that I cannot be there with you today, so I hope you all are having a great day and enjoying some cake. But I'm going to be going through my project right now. I chose to focus on visuals in the classroom, specifically the English 3 classroom. So, I wanted to start off with my vision statement. We worked on these a few months ago, and I found myself tweaking this pretty much every time I looked at it, but I realized I absolutely wanted to focus on a few specific elements, my main one being empathy, but also finding where you fit. So I'm going to go through it. It's question the world around you, gain strength in knowledge, accept others through empathy, seek power in your voice, find kindness from within. You choose your path, find where you fit. I find that this is something that's really, really relevant to really everyone, but it's something I want to work into my lessons or just my classroom environment every single day. So, a little bit about where I teach. It's Troy Buchanan High School, and as you can see based on the demographics, it is a predominantly white school with 90%. And we do have 39% on free or reduced lunch, and the enrollment is almost 2,000 students. So something else to be aware of with the Troy R3 school district is that we have kind of a special situation with our high school. We have two buildings. One is called the Ninth Grade Center, and that's where all of the freshmen go. And then at Troy Buchanan High School, that's the larger building, and that's where 10 through 12 attend school. So I do not teach freshmen, so I will be focusing only on juniors. They're the main ones I teach still. So with this, I did choose two teaching standards, the first one being Standard 1, Quality Indicator 2. Which is content knowledge aligned with appropriate instruction. So I wanted to focus on student engagement in the subject matter. English 3 is typically a course at this school that is where students who are not usually college bound, that's where they end up. So we have a lot of struggles with reading comprehension or perhaps written expression. I do teach 3 co-tots. I have 4 sections of English 3, and 3 of them are co-tots. And so I thought that student engagement should absolutely be the place to start, especially with so many struggling readers. And then I thought that Standard 2, Indicator 4 with the differentiated lesson design would really play to the strengths and flexibility of the co-taught classroom. My goal with my co-teacher, we are a new team this year. We've been working really hard to bring new instructional strategies to our co-tots. So we made the goal, I will enhance student engagement from 50% of the classroom time to 90% of classroom time. So definitely, setting the bar high, which I think is important, of course. My method, though, so because I think in English there's a lot of flexibility on how to assess students, I wanted to branch away from just looking at essay writing. So for this in particular, I chose to focus on visuals and students creating their own visuals to demonstrate or represent their learning and their own thinking. So I did this with 2 different projects. The first one being the body biography project, which was part of the Crucible unit, and the multi-genre project, which is the project that the students are currently working on right now as we speak. It will take us until the end of the year, but they did start it in the middle of March. So in order to collect my data for this, I did use the co-teaching strategy, the one teach, one observe. My co-teacher and I attended some professional development that taught us different strategies. And so the one teach, one observe really was very, very effective in this case, where we would alternate depending on the class. One of us would teach the lesson, and then the other one would have the Google form in front of her on the iPad and just check off on our Google checklist and tally the following levels of engagement. So it's anywhere from not engaged, passively engaged, moderately to fully engaged. And absent students will not be counted during these observations. So we did collect data 4 times during each project. Now, with projects, it's usually not even the one teach, one observe. We maybe collected data 1 time with both projects, with one person teaching and one observing, but a lot of our data was collected through the independent work time or the collaborative work time amongst the students. So the first project was the body biography project in the Crucible. So it did have the visual element, and I apologize that the yellow paper here is a bit see-through, so you can see some of the other projects behind them. But students were given, I guess, very, very tall, long strips of paper, and they were to trace one of their group members on it. And then they were assigned a character, and they had to come up with different visual representations or symbols of that character. So you see these 2 examples here are both of the character Reverend Hale. So they had to decide what they thought represented what was in Reverend Hale's heart. They also came up with quotes or song lyrics that they thought represented what he would say. They also, up here in the head area, it's difficult to see, but with the eyes, that is how other people perceive them and how they perceive the world. They have to come up with their own things, and you can't see it at the bottom here, but he is standing on something as well. So they always have to decide what does he stand for, and they have to come up with different visual elements. So you see these 2 groups took a really, really different approach, which is fine. They were not required to make him wear clothes, but this group really wanted to go for it creatively. And then after they drew their projects with their group members, they were in groups of 4, they then came up and presented them to us. So a lot of our data was collected while they were working together. So I did find that during this project, 63% of students were fully engaged. And now again, this is just in my 3 co-taught classes. About 15% were moderately engaged, and 15 were passively, and then 7 were not at all. I will say these levels of engagement were a great improvement upon the initial level. The initial level, I don't even know if it reached 50%. But we found, the Crucible being our 2nd unit of the school year, that we were really losing a lot of our students by not doing more hands-on activities. And a lot of them feel so limited when it comes to just writing. So we thought maybe it would help them if they got to do something a bit more visual or something more artistic with it, but also visually with like the song lyrics, things like that. So then our second assessment is the multi-genre project. So the students for this project, they were given the prompt, which is what do they wish was taught in high school that is not currently taught. And I guess it doesn't even have to be high school. It could be really any grade. But what do they wish was taught? So the visual element of this project would be that students have to generate 5 different genres or 5 different non-essay pieces based on whatever their topic is. So, for example, I have one student here. He created a fake BuzzFeed article on cursive. His topic is cursive handwriting. And so, what they need to do is they need to create 4 different pieces in 4 different genres, arguing why his topic is cursive, why cursive is a great thing, all right, why we should all learn it, and then one genre, which is their con or their counterclaim. So one needs to be all about why cursive should not be taught. So this is just a very, very tiny screenshot of his BuzzFeed article. His was actually a con, and so we talked about, within class, the different types of genres and all of the different things you can do. Do not feel like you need to just put yourself into the 5-paragraph essay mold. This kid really, really took this idea and ran with it. He found he really liked the snarkiness of the BuzzFeed article, and he really also loved playing with GIFs, or the moving pictures. And so you see down here too, they have to come up with their own writing, and then they have to support all of their points with footnotes about why cursive is or is not good or beneficial. I'm going to show you another example here. This one's quite a bit more visual, much less writing. So this one, her topic is mental health and why we need to teach good mental health in schools. So she actually created a brochure, and she called it the Functioning Socially Spa and Resort. And so you see here, she's thought about how to come up with a brochure that really fits her theme. She chooses some really, really soothing types of pictures, and then her backgrounds. All of that worked really, really well together. And you can see she understands the rules of the genres. She had to look up several brochures. This really helped her, though, think about it. This student, she's absolutely an artsy type of student. And so it's difficult for her to bring everything, or I guess flesh everything out in just words. So she really liked being able to work with visuals, and that really helped her. She had one of the highest scores on this piece. So you see here, she also has her footnotes and citations. I don't know, it turned out really cute. She just made up the spa. And then finally, this last example, this student, her topic is teaching the fantasy genre in school. And so she chose to make an Instagram. And so it's a completely fake Instagram. So she just made this person up. And then she found this picture of the 3 witches from Hocus Pocus attending Comic-Con, or just people dressed up like them, fans. But you see here, she had to come up with her own caption as her fake person, and then she has her hashtags, and then she has her quote over here. So she really had to think about all of the different elements that had to come into play. She even made up, her friends 1 and 2 both hit like on this. Okay. So we've really found success with the multi-genre project, even though we are still in the middle of it. We did find that at least 53% of the students were fully engaged, and 36% were moderately engaged, and then 9 were passively, and 2 were not engaged at all. So while my 53% of students being fully engaged is a lot closer to the base level, I do think, though, that this is still a great improvement on what we did last year, which was just an essay, just an argumentative essay. I wouldn't even be able to say if I even had 53% of students who were fully engaged with that. They have a lot more control over this one and a lot more choice. It's not as formulaic. And so I've really found that my co-tots have really, really succeeded with things like that, okay? It's a little difficult for some of them to be given that much freedom, But once they realize like, oh, it's okay if I try something new. Oh, it's okay that I'm not worrying about transition words or something right now. Um, they seem to be really, really excited and very willing to try anything when it comes to this, which is really, really fun. So again, my summary, I thought, it went really well. Um, especially being in the co-taught classes. We have a lot of visual learners, and my classes and I have talked about this before, how, in fact, one of the co-taughts, they are quite visual, but they have to have the words. They have to have Google slideshows or something that goes with it. All right, they have to have captions or something. So my slideshows, when they have a lot of words on them, are always for that class. Well, we talked with one of my other classes, and they were, they even agreed, like, yeah, we really are the visual ones in here. We don't really need or read any of the things you put up there. We're just looking at the pictures or the Gatsby GIFs or whatever it is I have on the board that day. So it was also interesting for the students to reflect on what really works well for them. It also, I think, kind of had like a mind blowing moment for them to realize that I, as a teacher, do not speak to every single class the exact same way. I don't know, it was a really interesting conversation that we had together. So again, what worked? The incorporating visual elements absolutely worked. I also really liked that the students who struggle with written expression were able to demonstrate their learning in a way that really better fit their skills and their abilities. Since we have so many IEPs with written expression, a lot of them feel so defeated before they've even begun when it comes to an English course. So I don't know, they've really blossomed when it comes to assignments like this. I will say, though, some things that didn't work. We do have classroom space limitations, of course. So the giant pieces of paper for the body biography projects were not really conducive to that environment. Those were too big, and we ended up having to put some of the kids out in the hallway, which then led to a bit more distractions. We also have had some issues with technology. This is more in regards to the multi-genre project, things like the internet going out or having to learn new websites. The kids have to, venture out away from just Google Drive, which is wonderful, but it doesn't work for absolutely every project they want to do. So we have to be really, really flexible with that and modify expectations for work completion based on just the challenges we meet. And then what would I do differently? Well, I will say that based on what I learned from doing the body biography project, I realized that I needed to have actual examples of what the work should look like before I could set them off to do it. Okay, a lot of them with the body biography project had a difficult time understanding that I want you to draw what is in Reverend Hale's heart, not just a heart. Okay. Or if you think he is someone who is fighting for justice and he's all about justice, how do you represent justice other than just writing the word justice? So that's something I definitely want to take into account, and which I did take into account with the multi-genre project. And I ended up making my own examples for them to model some genres off of. And that was mainly for the ones who perhaps were struggling with these new, more abstract types of ideas and ways of thinking. So I do think having those types of things prepared for next year will be really, really great. And I also think having one-to-one devices in the high school will be very helpful as well, especially in regards to the multi-genre. But I think the body biography could go on, on the iPad as well. I don't know though, the kids really liked the drawing aspect, so may have to keep that one. Alrighty, and so that is everything I have for you today. Thank you all so much for listening. I have really enjoyed my time at Teachers Academy this year. Again, I am so sorry and I am so sad that I am not there right now. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you next year.